Okay, take two. So I added a bit of stuff to the game today. This would be kind of the beginning, I guess you could say, with the left mouse button. See, of course, up here when we're on the planet and we use the left mouse button, it adds a block, okay? But here we ship fire. We fire a weapon from the ship, which is like that Space Flowers game that I was showing you before. That was part of this that I was making. It just sets a boolean. It starts the thing with the ship, and then the distance. I'll show you that calculation. So this is the main class that I updated. Okay, these are the total maximums of what we could possibly use when every planet has 8 moons. Excuse me, 8 moons. And then I figured out that I was using this array to keep track of the center of each of the planets, because there's a variable number of moons for each planet. So I had to keep track of the center of them, because in the vertices, in the vertex array, I don't keep track of this planet and then the moons and then the other planet starts. I don't keep track of when those index points occur. But if I keep track of the center points here, then I just have to reference which planet. So the first 15, 0 to 14 array indices are the planets that have moons in the vertex array. The next 15, so 15 to 29, the next 15, are the actual asteroids and crystals, and those are drawn as an asteroid or a crystal with the different things here. So I moved all the ship firing weapon variables into here. I moved these 2 index variables which keep track of where in these 2 arrays we are at in creating, in other words, a max point. In other words, once all the planets and moons are in the array, this is the last spot in the array where everything occurs. And then the same thing here. And then I also had, well, we'll see it as we go. I'll point it out. So here's one instance where we use the center as a calculation for finding the nearest planet and calculating which will change. That mechanical change. But so here's how I figured out. I had to trace this back and redo. After the stream, this is what I did. So the planets and moons take up 0 to PLMN index, which is the maximum, the last index that we wrote. Then between ML index 1 and PLMN index 15 plus 15, that's where all the asteroids and crystals are being stored. And then the 16th is the projectile for the ship. Okay. So now, when we're in the update function, we're jumping around here, but the update function will move the planets and moons, the asteroids and crystals, and the ship weapon projectile, all according to the input, based on the user input, which is the mouse moving around and the W or the S key to speed up or slow down. Then the lines connecting the planets and moons, same thing. Okay. Then we move the asteroids and crystals that will move around like asteroids according to their own velocity that is given to each one. So I'm able to index through the array here, and then there's another index, because it's a little bit awkward, and this is going to have to be redone before I reach release. Maybe looks around funny. Because when I index into the array for the planets, for the centers and the velocities and stuff, I have to adjust the array index, of course. And then when I index for the asteroids and stuff, then that's what I get. Anyways, this controls wrapping them around the screen. They go off the screen, then they come back on. It's like 1.1. So. Then down here we get into the ship, and I just copied this directly over. I modified the index into the see the SI index. That's into the PLMN array, which controls that holds the planets and moons, and then the BI index into the PLMN array also is trying to find collisions between the projectile, which is the projectile for the ship, see up here, this SI, and any of the other asteroids. So then once that's done, we call this handy dandy recycle function, which will take the asteroid and reset it to a different position. And that's what happens with a projectile when we find a hit, is the projectile gets reset. And then the ship fire boolean gets reset as well to a non-firing state. Here's where we would add, incidentally, and I can put this in, here's where we tally the score of energy points. And eventually that'll be a mechanic. Okay, and then it updates the vertex buffers there. Okay, then we draw, and then I had to have this, of course, here too. Now I was remembering here that the amount that we draw here is not the same as an array index. So that's why it's one more. So if it was an index into an array, we would subtract 1 because that would be the maximum. But the actual maximum is 1 plus that. So that's why we're drawing PL M index plus 17 when the maximum array index for the projectile for the ship is 16 plus 16. So then we draw the lines, and those are the maximum lines and whatever. So okay, so here's the recycle function, and just gets a random direction. It has a set radius, so it's like a set speed of all the asteroids. We can vary that with a little bit, and then we recalculate the index for the planetary velocity thing here. Now this one, you'll notice, uses A, even though I recalculate the index as A underscore index, because the one that we throw in using the parameter A there. So the A is used for the planetary index, and then the A underscore index gets used for the other PLMN down here, which is later. See, because what this does is it resets it. It sets far enough equal to true, and it loops through here to make sure that when it respawns an asteroid, that it's far enough away from all the other created planets and asteroids and crystals that it's in kind of a nice little open area. And then it calculates the center of that, sets the center of that, and then chooses a color for the palette, planet size is set, grid size, type, and all that good stuff. Okay, init data right here. I know, and I'm kind of breezing through this, but I'm actually giving you more of an overview of how this works than I've ever done it before, so that's kind of cool. So the first 15 are planets with moons. This is if you add up the first 15 planets with, yeah, and I was doing my calculations and I wasn't figuring things correctly at this point, which is why I had that other calculation and I had that in here. So create 15 planets, and this is all stuff we've seen before. This is the complementary color thing, the center. Here's where we set the center. I changed the code a little bit because I took it out a bit and then I put it back. We don't need to talk about that. It's on stream. You can see it. Winding direction, spiral spiky. Each planet has up to 8 moons. And here's where we keep track of the number of moons. Okay, it's a random, and then it loops through here the random number of times and creates the moons and does all that fun stuff. And then at the end here, the PLMN index is increased by the number of moons plus 1 because the planet takes up 1 as well. And then the number of moons times 2 is the number of lines that we're adding, and we only draw lines between the planet and the moons, so we don't have to increase that number. So it's not num moons plus 1 times 2. Anyways, and then here's the handy dandy little reference again, initialize the asteroids and crystals. So this is the actual initialization for the asteroids and crystals, and it's just p recycle and then the index, which goes from 15 to 30. And I already showed you that function. And then this initializes the ship projectile weapon, and this just is the index for it, and then I just put it in there. The position starts at 0, 0. Oddly enough, it stays at 0, 0 the entire time, and the ship just rotates around it. Everything else in the world moves, because that gave me about 20 minutes of grief until I remembered that. And then the color of it is red. I can change that any time, and then the grid size type is right there too. So, well, after that long and exhaustive verbose explanation, let us show you the eye candy. Hopefully it'll be eye candy. Close your eyes for the white coming up. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we are, and then we've got the, see, the crystals are added now, and then the asteroids also have the different shapes and or the different types. There's a few different types, the way they twist and the way the layers and stuff like that. So, and I can shoot and eliminate those and they'll respawn, you see. And it's a little clunky, but it fires directly where the mouse is at versus the direction that the ship is pointing, which I just have to figure out the aspect ratio thing, and then that'll be fixed. So it's kind of fun. You're going to build energy as you destroy these little asteroids and crystals. And then as you build energy, what's going to happen is this star will start out as just a little dot, and it'll grow bigger and bigger. And then these planets will start to spawn as the star gets more energy from your destroying these asteroids. And then the moons will start to spawn as you get more energy. And then once you get a planet like this, like this one, let's say it starts with 5. So once you get it to a full power of having all 5 moons, right, there will be a designation. You'll be able to know that it's at full power, and then a trading station, which I'll have to come up with a graphic or an indicator for that, will spawn there, and then we'll start all the trading stuff. So let's see if I can get a decent screenshot here with maybe the crystal. Let's go like that right there. That looked like a good screenshot. We didn't have too many crystals, but so that might be the long-winded version of where the state of the game is right now, but that's because I worked on it all day and I just wanted to show you guys that I added the ship, the firing, and the crystals. So thanks very much for watching, and I'm still streaming, so you can still watch me set up the video and post it on the stream. So